Imagine for 2026, you're so disciplined that you achieve everything you set out to do. I want that for you. So I've taken my 3 years of psychology study and own experiences, sticking with habits, achieving goals, and figuring out what works. And I've boiled it down into 6 different components. The first component is motivation. I've chosen to start here as it links to all the other 5 components in this video. Now, there's a pretty big problem with motivation for a lot of people. It's inconsistent and emotion dependent, which means it relies heavily on how you feel in the moment. It spikes when something excites you or feels meaningful, but quickly fades once things get uncomfortable, repetitive, or the reward feels far away. Motivation is the driving force between literally every single thing we do. Think about it. When you're hungry, you're motivated to eat. If you used to smoke and you smell a cigarette, most likely you'll be motivated to smoke. The point is, motivation isn't good or bad. Our brains don't distinguish between helpful and harmful impulses. So if motivation can work both for and against us, how can we make it so that it is reliable? Well, that's what the other 5 components of this video are for. It's time to take some notes because you're about to learn a lot in a very short amount of time. The second component is something called environment design, which is the intentional structuring of your surroundings to make your desired behaviors easier and your undesired behaviors harder. Let me give you an example. During the Vietnam War, a large number of American soldiers began using heroin and other drugs while deployed. The US government became alarmed when reports suggested that up to 15 to 20% of soldiers were addicted. This was a big problem for those soldiers, as it was previously thought that heroin changes your brain chemistry so much that you could never actually quit. When those soldiers returned home to the US, researchers expected a massive addiction crisis. But surprisingly, about 95% of those who had been addicted stopped using heroin shortly after returning, without formal rehab. Now, you might be asking, how in the world did this randomly happen? Well, when soldiers returned home from Vietnam, nearly every element of their environment changed. The cues, context, and emotional associations that once drove their drug use vanished. In other words, these soldiers lost the motivation to use because they lost all the subtle cues in their environment that drove them to in the first place. Now you might be thinking, Tom, how is this related to discipline? Well, the same principle applies. If you design your environment to remove temptations and add cues that promote productive habits, your environment starts doing the heavy lifting. So to summarize, if you have a goal, anything that distracts or inhibits you from completing that goal, just remove it. The easiest thing I can think of is if you're studying at uni or at school, put your phone in a drawer and then you won't be distracted by it. But that's not all. Environment design is so powerful. You can actually build new habits. If your goal was to train 5 days a week, leave your gym bag and clothes in plain view for the next day. This subtle cue can cause you to have a larger motivation to train. And at the very least, it'll remind you that you wanted to in the first place. This brings us to habits, which is the third component of this video. This section might be a bit hard for you to wrap your head around, but I'm going to try and explain it as best as I can. It's all well and good to decide on a goal, but if that goal doesn't align who you are as a person, you're going to feel very conflicted. Because when you do things that challenge the type of person you see yourself as, it can leave you feeling very uncomfortable. Most people use motivation to push themselves into action. But when that motivation fades, you're left with nothing to keep you going. The deeper issue is that people focus on what they want to do, not who they want to become. They set goals like, I want to work out more, or I want to study harder. But those are outcome-based. When you're busy, tired, or unmotivated, those outcomes lose their pull. The fix is to build identity-based habits. Instead of chasing outcomes, build goals and habits around the person you actually see yourself as. For example, instead of saying, I want to go to the gym, say, I'm the kind of person who doesn't miss workouts. Once your actions reinforce that identity, discipline becomes automatic. Because now skipping the gym isn't just a missing session, it's acting out of character. David Goggins once said about himself, I have built undisputable evidence to myself of what my identity is because of the actions I take every single day. He can look back and confidently say that his identity aligns with every single thing that he does. The fourth component of this video is removing social media. specifically short form content. And if you don't think this is too big of an issue, let me try and put it into perspective for you. Short form content can literally reshape your brain. It shortens your attention span, makes it harder to focus on deep or complex ideas, increases anxiety and depression, creates boredom in anything that isn't a screen, fuels addiction through instant gratification, weakens memory, disrupts sleep, affects emotional regulation, and can even cause social withdrawal. If you're like me and you get frustrated, annoyed, and even ashamed for getting distracted from the things that you know you should be doing, let me break down what has worked for me. First off, I just want to say everyone's free to live how they want. You don't have to take this advice. But it was crucial for me to achieve what I needed to. I used to scroll TikTok for hours and then feel awful about wasting so much time instead of actually living. So I deleted it. And for a while it worked. But then came Instagram Reels and I couldn't just delete the app because I use it to message people. So here's what I did. First off, I removed it from my home screen because I know that without the cue, there'll be less chance I'll have an impulse. Think back to the soldiers from Vietnam returning home, how they just completely quit heroin. On top of that, in settings, I set my screen time limit to 1 minute a day. Just enough time to see if I need to reply to any messages. Personally, I've made triple the progress on my goals since doing these really simple things. And it was one of the first things that really helped me start retraining my brain to do the hard things that I need to do instead of chasing instant gratification. The fifth component of this video is accountability and social pressure. When no one's watching, it's easy to negotiate with yourself. We're social creatures. We naturally care about how others perceive us. And that's why social accountability is so important. If your circle doesn't value growth, discipline, or effort, you'll start lowering your own standards without even realizing it. The people around you set the baseline for what feels normal. Now here's the solution. Use accountability and social pressure to your advantage. Surround yourself with people who make progress feel expected. Join a gym where people actually train hard. Or tell a friend so they can help keep you accountable. Or you could post it on social media. Whatever keeps you honest. The last component of this video is to break your goals down into small, digestible steps you can complete in a shorter time frame. Most people set goals that are too big, too vague, or too far away, like get fit, start a business, be more productive. The issue isn't the goal itself. It's that your brain can't track progress when the reward is months away. That lack of feedback can kill motivation. You'll start strong, but without that reward loop, your brain will label the effort as pointless. That's when discipline will fade and you'll just fall right back into your old habits. Now, here's what I do. I make my goals so small that they're impossible not to achieve. Each small action creates a mini win, which releases dopamine, and over time can build up some momentum. Why this matters is simple. Your brain needs proof that you're moving forward, and these small wins give it that proof. But if you skip this step and only focus on the bigger picture, you'll constantly feel behind. You could burn out faster, or lose confidence in your ability to follow through. You could even start believing that you're the problem when it's actually just your system. That's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you took something away from it. If you didn't and something didn't resonate with you, please let me know in the comments. I know advice isn't a one size fits all, and I would genuinely love to learn what works for you.